The FBI director hits pause on his efforts to not politicize attacks. I'm just kidding. You can't hit pause on something you never started. This is just another day. Not long ago, FBI Director Kash Patel reminded us exactly what his job entails.
My job as FBI Director is not to speak to motive, is to speak to the facts. And that's what I'm going to do.
That's right. No motive, just facts. And luckily for us, since Republicans in Congress have spent decades blocking every effort to pass any form of meaningful gun legislation, we didn't have to wait very long for another attack. This one at an ICE facility in Dallas. And as events were unfolding, even the folks at Fox News reminded their viewers that this story was still unfolding.
I would just caution all of us, folks at home, we are so early into this story. We don't have a name. We don't have a picture. We have an ID, the alleged gunman who apparently was dead on a rooftop in Dallas. We have an indication of a motive, but let's see if we can dig a little deeper here.
Exactly. Maybe let's not jump to conclusions because that would be irresponsible, says even the guys who paid $787 million for having so little regard for the truth. A burden clearly too high for the director of the FBI.
FBI Director Kash Patel says these politically motivated attacks are not a one-off, and the targeting of law enforcement officers has to end.
Finally, we get to see that no motive, just facts pledge in action. Unfortunately, Kash Patel has the same restraint that Lauren Boebert does every time she goes to a musical. She just can't help but get up and sing in the aisles. Why, what were you guys thinking? Now, normally, Kash's rush to immediately post evidence from an ongoing investigation would seem a little odd, or unwise, or merely one more example of how he is completely unqualified for this incredibly important position. But his post seems especially ill-timed considering after the Charlie Kirk assassination, it was Kash Patel himself who posted that they had the suspect in custody, but then had to retract that post when it turned out to be, oh, what's that word that means the polar opposite of true? Anyway, he felt terrible about it.
In the 24 hours after, when we were still looking for the guy, I know you posted that we got him. That ended up not being true. You took some incoming because of that. What led to you posting that? Why did you feel so certain about it? And what do you have to say about the criticism?
No, I appreciate this opportunity. Look, as I stated, I was being transparent with working with the public on our findings as I had them. Could I have worded it a little better in the heat of the moment? Sure. But do I regret putting it out? Absolutely not.
No regrets. I mean, look, could he have worded that statement slightly differently so that the information he was conveying as head of the FBI was factually accurate? I mean, sure. But Kash knows that that's not what true patriots want from him. What they want to hear is that a suspect is not only in custody, but that he's hogtied in the back of a pickup and that Kash and the boys are about to go medieval on his Antifa ass. One of the issues here is that Donald Trump has appointed people to positions in the government who lack the competence that the job requires. Guys like Kash Patel and Dan Bongino may have thought hanging up their multi-million-dollar media machine jackets and putting on their FBI jackets would be an easy transition, but as Mr. Bongino told us, it is anything but.
People ask me all the time, do you like it? I say, no, I don't. But the president asked me to do this to like it. Nobody likes going into an organization like that and having to change things and make big, bold changes. But, I was at one of our facilities yesterday down in Winchester, and a woman who worked there, very nice, said, I used to watch your show. I miss you. I said, I miss me, too. Part of you, part of you dies a little bit when you see all this stuff from behind the scenes.
We need to normalize therapy in this country. And hey, just to showcase our empathy, Dan, I want to let you know that we understand how you feel, because a part of us dies too, knowing that you promised to release the Epstein files, and now you're not. Look, the reality is that we live in an era of immediacy. Every one of us is used to getting things fast. When our friends go on vacation, we don't have to wait to hear the story about how it went. Thanks to them, we get to watch the story as it happens. If it's 2 a.m. and we're craving a Crunchwrap Supreme, some dude in a light blue Honda Civic hatchback can bring it to our door within minutes. And if you're jonesing for a refreshing swim, but the only body of water available is some disgusting polluted creek teeming with bacteria, our Secretary of Health and Human Services has taught us that this frustrating predicament can be resolved with one single word: cannonball. So I understand completely everyone's desire to want immediacy when it comes to information about these tragic events. But just as everyone has told Matt Gaetz as he lingers around high school parties leering at underage girls, unfortunately, you have to wait. These assassinations and murders are horrific national tragedies that we should all be sickened by, but our leaders should be the ones telling us to take a beat instead of claiming to have definitive information when they don't. Because when actual information comes out, it can tell a different story. Here's the acting U.S. attorney giving us the facts on the Dallas shooting.
His words were definitively anti-ICE. That said, we did not find evidence of membership in any specific group or entity, nor did he mention any specific government agency other than ICE.
Those are the facts. The murderer was not part of the radical left or the radical right. He was just a lunatic asshole with a gun. But I guess some people have their own set of facts.
Who do you hold responsible for the uptick in left-wing violence in the country?
Radical left rhetoric. The radical left is causing the problem.
Gee, I wonder why Kash feels he needs to politicize these shootings. Maybe it's because if he didn't, his boss would immediately see it as a dereliction of duty. It's the same reason our vice president says things like this.
The particular type of political violence we have in the United States of America in 2025 is disproportionately left-wing. What it is a reflection and a piece of information that we should all use to turn down the rhetoric a little bit.
I think we can all agree it's the Democrats' fault, and I only say that so we can stop blaming each other. Look, I get that we're never going to stop people from rushing to judgment or saying the worst things online to each other. In fact, I think that was Facebook's original slogan, but it doesn't seem far-fetched to want our leaders to be better than us. This is clearly a trying time for our nation, and it's a moment where we can use real leadership. But rather than having our anger and fears quelled by our president, he is exacerbating them. Donald Trump takes every opportunity to amp up the rhetoric and further divide an already heavily divided nation, which sadly sows distrust in the entire system, and that's the point. Look, I'm on the internet a lot. It's what some doctors have described as an unhealthy amount of time. But even for a person as terminally online as me, I've gotten to the point where even I don't know what's real and what's not. Were the writings on those bullets genuine or just the work of some rogue officer with blue Sharpie? I'm honestly not sure. And if I don't know what to believe, I would imagine a lot of other people feel the same way. The line between fact and fiction becomes more and more difficult to discern, and that is the goal of a demagogue. That is how autocracy thrives. It's not about convincing people to believe a particular lie, it is about obliterating the very concept of truth, which is explicitly what Donald Trump is doing every time he lies in his tweets and at his press conferences and whenever he opens his mouth. It is what his acolytes do when they trip over themselves tweeting out unverified claims for retweets. It is an extremely calculated move by an extremely small-penised man to sow division for his own political gain. And if that seems like some strong language...
Could I have worded it a little better in the heat of the moment? Sure. But do I regret putting it out? Absolutely not.
Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.